Hello and welcome to another episode of Essential Exchange, where we share information, education, and stories that people need to hear. Community and connection are essential, and today I have a very special guest who is near and dear to me for many reasons. We now have known each other for about 20 years, and she has been an amazing mentor to me. She is an entrepreneur and helped me to become an entrepreneur when I first started out. She is going to tell you a little bit more about herself, but she is like a two-time representative in the Senate, and she is she's known as Dr. Daycare. She is an author. She is a successful businesswoman. She is just amazing. I can go on and on about her, but I'd like her to tell a little bit about herself and her story. She is a mother, a grandmother, and now a great-grandmother. And again, like I said, throughout the years, I've gotten to see and experience all these things with her as, you know, her businesses have evolved and her family has grown. And so, Marianne, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself? And it's Marianne Shellcross with two L's, not a L-I. It's a little bit of a typo there. But tell us a little bit about yourself, you know, your family, what you're doing right now in business and in the Senate, you know, who you represent and things like that. And then we'll kind of just go from there.
Well, first I'd like to say I'm a House representative, so I'm a rep. Sometimes people just blend it together, but we have the House side, we have the Senate side. I am delightfully on the House side with a lot of great colleagues on the Senate side. We work collaboratively together all the time. One of the things I also like to say is the word that you had said earlier, Natalie, is mentor. From my heart, thank you for the introduction. But I also like to say from my heart, I love mentoring women. Yeah, it's just something I get more out of it than I think the people I mentor. Sometimes my whole family does not want to listen to me anymore. Like, Ma, go away. We've heard enough, you know. However, if I can give my expertise and help people make solutions, help people get to the next step, and within their growth within themselves, I really get a lot out of it. So all the years I've been your mentor, I am so excited even to see your growth. So, and I mentor other women too from CCRI, and I actually just put in to become a Rhode Island College mentor too for students. So I've been doing it for many, many years, and truly, it's one of my favorite things of being a woman in business.
Mm-hmm. So and I get it when you say the kids, right? We have I have 4 kids. You have 3 kids, right?
3, yeah.
3, yeah.
3 adult kids.
You have all this.
Turned 49.
Yeah. Good. 149.
49 last week. That's how long I've been in business since he was born. Yes. Right, 47,
right. And
my
you have all this.
Is 23.
And you have this wealth of knowledge, and you have all this stuff that you can give them, right? And when they're your kids, they just don't take it the same. They don't want to hear it. Like me, I'm like, you know, like sitting at your feet going, please feed me the knowledge, right? And they're just like, oh, Mom, please. I get it.
It's funny. I was telling my 11-year-old granddaughter the day she slept over. I was trying to give her a story about Christmas from the past, and like every kid's like, oh, my mom. I'm like, oh, you're going to say that about your mom. Your mom says that about me. And let me tell you what I did to my mom when she tried to give me advice back in the day. I think this was probably back in the maybe 80s. And I'm like, Mom, I've just heard enough. So, back we had the answer machines. So I was telling my granddaughter what I did was when you called my number and you heard my answer machine, it says, Grandma got ran over by a reindeer. I go, it's the only way I could get back. So we just pass it on. So thank God we meet people like you in life who love to be able to be mentored and kind of take all our wisdom and our insight and certainly the love of a woman in business. So it certainly is a nice pay it forward, truly.
So both of us too, we're young mothers, right? And single mothers a lot of the time. And that's kind of what prompted us both, right, to get into business. And I think both of us started in home daycare, right?
Yes, we did. We both started home daycare. Yeah. Mine began when my son was born 49 years ago. He was born on Pearl Harbor Day, and 1972. And I could not find daycare. I'm like, you're back on aging myself because you went to the yellow pages. There were not maybe one daycare listed. And my mom was saying no to me. She was a young grandmother. She was 39 at the time. I thought she was really old. I really did. And so I'm like, okay, my entrepreneur juices just started flowing. I said, if I can't find childcare, who else can't find childcare? And I started cottage industry in my home in Lincoln, Rhode Island, and I never looked back. It's an amazing, amazing profession to be in the early childhood arena and profession and education. And I've never been so delighted in my whole life to be able to be this lucky and to have all those children and absolutely wonderful, wonderful staff to educate, teach children every single day.
Yeah, this is why we get along, right? So I had 4 kids when I started my home daycare because even looking for daycares always with my kids, I'd go to 10 daycares and I was like, oh my God, no, my kids are not going there. So yours, there was a lack of daycare. Mine, there was a lack of good daycare. And so I was like, there was maybe 1 or 2 daycares out of a dozen that I would consider even sending my kids to. And then having 4 kids and 2 kind of infant toddlers at the same time, you're going to work, and between taxes and daycare, you're not making any money. So that's what prompted me to start my home daycare. And then I bought my first daycare from you. So we have a lot in common. And like I said, you paved the way for me, and you definitely, made it a lot easier. And I remember one thing that you said to me, which I did not exactly heed your advice the first time around. You said, don't reinvent the wheel. If it's there for you, take it and build on it. And being a new entrepreneur and being young, I was still a little bit probably stubborn and a little bit not knowing and trusting, right? So I learned the hard way that I kind of did reinvent the wheel a little bit at times. And then with my second daycare and other places that I helped to reorganize and stuff, which you were there for as well, ironically, right? I learned what you meant was work smarter, not harder, and take what you have and build off of that foundation. And that was like so much easier. And I wished I would have listened to you the first time, but I didn't really know exactly what you meant until I went through it. Right. But that's what you have a mentor.
You gotta walk through it. You gotta walk through it. You gotta live through it. And then you look back, okay, now I get that. One thing is in the childcare, when I started in the 70s, there were no regulations. My girlfriend, Norma Sutcliffe, we're neighbors, both decided to go in childcare together. And we actually helped DCYF back in the day come up with the regulations for home-based daycare. So we were like truly the cottage industry of childcare. And at that point, 2 people from the same family, mom and dad, went back to work, and mom started working. So actually a lot of it was good timing. But one thing I know is child development is just child development. A 2-year-old, a lot of people call them terrible 2s. I call them terrific 2s. I love 2-year-olds. If you can't find my office, I'm in the watching just through the window in the toddler room saying, yeah, I could be walking on top of that table. I could be taking those blocks and pushing them onto the floor. I think toddlers are cool. So when you study child development, you study toddlers, infant, toddler, preschool, and school age. You get to know that there's milestones that each child has to take, and developmental milestones. And once you know those, it's almost like you can really work very, very well with children. And I pass on because I do a lot of guest speaking at the local high school. All right, so the best thing to do is give kids choices. Just continue to give kids choices and talk to them like you really care about them, because even at 2-year-old, they know if you like them or you don't. It's pretty cool. Very intuitive.
So you just said something significant that comes into my realm, right? I also owned daycare centers, and I also was in, education and child development in many different roles. But mine is more behavior, right, and mental health. It's kind of always been that. It was always my focus, and it still is. And you just said something very significant. They know when you don't like them and when you do.
They know.
And that makes all the difference in the world. And it's not just with kids, it's with adults, because I found that at the hospital, working with the psychiatric behavioral population as well. They're not very well liked. They're not very well accepted and things like that, because people don't understand them. So it's sort of a lack of education. It's some ignorance around it, right? Around not understanding like why that toddler acts the way they do, right? Why that person who has an addiction problem acts the way they do. And when you start to like kind of break that down, and you realize like there's always a reason for behavior. And if you can find out what that reason is and get to the core of it, you can change that behavior. You can make that behavior disappear a lot of times.
Yeah, little empathy, working with, I mostly work with young children, a little caring, a little touching their shoulder, a little kind of like the scratching their head, a little getting down to their level, and just kind of like a nice soft voice, like, hey, tell me. And you can't really do this too much to a 2-year-old, you can do it to a 3-year-old. Tell me, or I'll say, show me what hurts, and as long as they understand that you're listening and paying attention, and they, for that moment, understood, as you just said, a lot of the behavior can just dissipate. It just kind of flows into the air. And don't take it personally. They're only 2. They're only 3 years old. They've only been on this world for 3 years. So the bottom line is kind of come down where they need you, and just kind of reflective listening to them.
With that being said, though, Marianne, sorry, with that, this delay, I hate this delay because I always interrupt people and we overtalk each other. But just to stop there and say that, 2 or 3-year-old, right? People think they don't understand. They can't cognitively have a conversation with you or tell you what's wrong or learn or understand like what you're trying to accomplish with them, which is really wrong, right? Because the essential years are those toddler years to, age 5, 7, where it really molds your personality for the rest of your life. Like you can look at somebody at that age and you can kind of predict how they're going to be as an adult. And ironically and unfortunately, I've come to learn, through education and things, that's where a lot of people get stuck. And I mean, they could be 40, like I'm, 47 years old, but there's that 7-year-old self that is still stuck because
that 7-year-old part is still stuck. You want to say stuck inside, still sometimes hurting inside, and sometimes just needs to continue to be developed. And that's why I always like to every aspect of a child that I come across and with and play with and hang out with and do arts and crafts with, all during the arts and crafts, it's all a conversation. What color do you like? What color do you want to put on that snowflake? And so if they come up with orange, the last thing you can say is orange doesn't belong on a snowflake. It should be white. I'll say, I like orange too. What do you like about orange? Follow the conversation. They might say, oh, I love orange because my pumpkin was orange. Oh my goodness. So the conversations can just completely flow. And no matter what age we are, all human beings love to be listened to. They love to be heard, and they love to give a voice. And even at a young age, you can start to give a child a voice if you allow a snowflake to be orange. That's the catch right there. You got to be able to allow the snowflake to be orange.
Now, I don't know if you remember correctly, but I had a girl that worked for me who did all the arts and crafts. She was amazing. She was talented. She still is. But she had a real issue because she had the toddlers, and like if they would do like the barnyard animals, like they had to be perfect. So she would like correct their noses and everything. And talk about that and how crucial it is that we need to let these kids be
Yeah.
creative to pick their own colors and to express themselves and to be able to um, understand and interpret the world their way, especially at that age, and let it be. And as parents, I'm sure we didn't do this either.
God knows. Now, someday we can just do a show on. I don't know how my 49-year-old son made it to 49 years old, because I was the very young mother who he convinced me when he was 2 years old to let him sleep on the top bunk. So that's a whole nother. That is a whole nother show. But following a child come a long way. Sometimes we just don't know, and if you just don't know, you just don't know. But to be able to let that child, I guess it's Christmas time, to have Rudolph's red nose put on his tail 5 years from there, if you put that in a portfolio and you take that out in 5 years when they're like 8 years old, look at that. That's a great conversation at Thanksgiving. It's just so beautiful. And they can actually see how far they've come in all those years. And who knows, maybe that red nose on the tail can bring them into a very different creative part of their being in an artistic way that we never know. So yeah, it's very important to follow the development of a 2 or 3 year old and 4 year old, and just follow them. We don't need to be leading all the time. We just got to be a kind of a model behavior. Now, if they don't want to go to bed at night, that's a different story. Okay, we're talking about arts and crafts and energy and time and play. If you get on the floor with them and they're making a blockhouse and they say it's a spaceship, let's talk about going to space. Let's see what they really know about going to space. They could think space was going in the cellar, and you come to find out, it's like, I think my space is in the sky. So there's just so many things you can learn if we just take a moment, stop, and listen. Yeah.
And that brings me back to when I was a kid. I was always very curious. My imagination ran wild, right? And people still tell me to this day, like, you live in the clouds, like you live in this fantasy world. And to me, I don't think there's anything wrong with it, because I actually think that they are very limited, and it's sad because they don't, think of like maybe things that they want to do or places they want to go. And I'm like, why would you not? Like, I still have this like childlike mind when it comes to like wanting to play and explore things and things like that as an adult. Right. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I think maybe society sort of does. And that's kind of why we try to keep them down and sort of like in this box. And that's why I like, like I love your daycare centers. You walk in, you can see the nurturing, and you can see the creativity and just you've been doing this for how many years, and you're still there at your centers, and you still walk through the rooms, and you're doctor daycare, but you like you said, get down. If you see a toddler playing, like you might just walk into the room because you see something interesting and you want to go sit and pick that little kid's brain, and say like, what is it you're doing? What are you doing right now? Yeah.
Yeah.
And mine started with Oprah. Yeah, mine started with
I
Oprah.
love
Like I swear I was like 7 years old, and I just used to sit in front of the TV and I would just watch Oprah. And I didn't even know why. I was just intrigued by her conversations. I think by her empathy and by how she could get people to talk to her about anything. And I always kind of wanted to be my own little Oprah. And so for you, who was your person or people that like, growing up made you want to be this like woman mentor, entrepreneur?
Well, I need to tell you, I know I've been your mentor for a while, but I don't think we ever shared this information because Oprah's mine too. When I went to decide to get a doctorate degree in early childhood education and leadership, my first class I went to was on leadership. And the professor told us we had to write a 10-page report, whatever, about our favorite leader. Without hesitation, it was Oprah Winfrey. I can tell you everything about Oprah. I can tell you everything about it because my whole first paper was on Oprah Winfrey. And matter of fact, I was 40 years old, so I'm going to be 70. So that was like 30 years ago. And it's still in my basement. And I was cleaning up my basement last summer. I'm like, I should send this to Oprah. I should really send this to Oprah. I said, Oprah, because 30 years later, I'm still watching Bowl Sunday. I mean, the woman's amazing. What she has taught the world. I mean, she's just an
Yes.
incredible leader. An incredible. I would like to see her like run for president someday. She's just an incredible leader, and she leads
Yes.
from what the way I perceive her. She leads from the heart. She totally leads from the heart,
Yes.
and what's good for people, what's good for all people. And she's had a tough life. She did not have what I read, and she did not have a life that was easy growing up. It wasn't all handed to her. What she's done is pretty self-made, but she's always, always impressed me. I actually was when I was in college, we had to do an internship kind of for a week. And I think I was in Detroit, and I found out that she was going to be in the area, and a good friend of mine, Karen, got tickets to me. So I was actually on her show, and I was like, oh my God, I'm sitting in the Oprah show.
Oh,
I
that's
cannot
awesome.
believe this. Yeah.
That's
So I
awesome.
actually got to see her in person, but it was like nothing like I've ever seen in my entire life. It was so much fun. It really was. But she's a great lady.
I
It's
think you should
interesting.
send that. I think you should send that to her. She might invite you. She might invite you for an interview. But
Natalie, that could happen. I'll check that out. I promise I'm going to do that. That's going to be my commitment for 2022 to get that to her. Make a copy of it. My God, that was before on computers. So keep that in mind. It's like all
yeah,
typewritten. So long
I'll
time
have to come
ago.
back over for coffee and read it.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
have to come back
absolutely. Let's
out and
do
read
that.
it. Yeah, over coffee.
Let's do that.
Um,
Yeah. And the other thing I want to say is I'm a
so
hometown girl. I born and raised in Lincoln, Rhode Island, which I love Lincoln. As I'm a host rep, as you know, in Lincoln and Pawtucket, to great city, great
mhm.
town. But when I tell people, I go, so you haven't left Lincoln? So I'm like, well, I spent a couple years in Cumberland. I want to say that. My parents moved right back to Lincoln. And but so I'm a hometown girl, but just I really want to say I have visited over 80 countries. I have been
That's
inside the
amazing.
pyramids. I have thrown coins in the Trevi Fountain. I have kissed the Blarney Stone. I have climbed Machu Picchu. I have done a lot of traveling in my entire life. And every country I go to, I visit child care centers or school just to watch children develop and just watch the parents' interaction with children. And I need to tell you, no matter where I go, parents love their children. Parents just love their children. You can just tell. They might not do it exactly like we do it over here in America. They give their kids, to me, a lot more leeway. We're like, come on in here, kid. But anyhow, a small town girl gets to travel the world. So I really am really excited to be able to share that with you. So I've seen children from all different countries and seen right inside their classrooms. So the poorest classrooms in Cambodia and Vietnam, where the classrooms are like clay floors, to some of the unbelievable classrooms I have had the privilege to visit.
And I've known you all this time, and I know you've traveled all over the world, but I didn't really know earlier your bio stuff that you actually went to all these places and visited child care centers. When you went to a lot of these places, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to the Philippines?
Yeah, I traveled a good friend, Norman. Please.
Have you ever been to the Philippines?
I traveled a good. I have not been to the Philippines. No, I have not. No. I traveled a friend. Her name is Noma Sutcliffe. She was another early childhood provider, home based for probably 35 years. And so she had the interest in children. I did. So I got to give her credit. She planned most of our trips. That was just great. I would just tag along, but we always made sure there was childcare centers, childcare homes, and also schools. So it's quite an eye opener. You know, I will.
You guys have no idea this woman. You guys really have no idea how amazing this woman is. The stuff that she does, I don't know how she finds the time for it, and she makes sure that she spends the time with her family, and that she keeps traditions and stuff like that. Like, I'm envious of a lot of the, all the travel you've done, how you keep your family together, how you show the importance on top of being, a representative, on top of owning all these daycare centers, and you being a mentor. I mean, all these things that you do, I don't know how you find time for them. They obviously keep you young, because I can't believe that you're like going on 70, like where you look great. But this woman is a phenomenal person. She just gives and gives and gives. Yeah, she's very successful, and she has made a decent living in life for herself and her family for sure. But she gives so much more than what she gets out of it. Like if
Mhm.
if heaven's throne there and space for her, reflects like what she's done here on earth, it will be just this golden jeweled, just beautiful place, because she's just a giver. And I think that's why we connect. Like we both connect with the Oprah thing, because we had our upbringings, and we had to kind of struggle for what we accomplished and learn on our own, without being educated, and given these things. We kind of had to strive for that ourselves. And yeah, and that's why I think we just connected, and stayed connected all through all these years, and I'm very, very grateful for that.
Well, it always takes two. So our energy certainly kept us connected, which is absolutely fantastic. And some of the things you just said, I hear that from so many people. I don't get that. I truly do not get that. It just seems like it's a natural thing to give. And I truly enjoy giving. I'll say it again now. My God, to be able to be a mentor is, I truly get more out of that than it's just a natural feeling. But I did learn in my 20s. I was about 27. I think that's when the brain development came in, that I don't waste my time with baloney. I only waste my time to get to a solution. So I'm not a gossip. Have you ever hear me gossip? You'll never hear me gossip. I don't talk about
No.
people. I just will not really be the type of person who, judges, even though we all judge, don't get me wrong. I try and keep myself in check with that. I always want to find a way we can talk and get to a solution that can sometimes help people's lives. Once again, I was talking to my 11-year-old granddaughter, and I was explaining to her. She goes, "Grandma, how come you became a doctor?" And I said, "Well, as a doctor of education, I want to let you know that." I just felt the early childhood profession really needed, because I was on the school board in Lincoln for years. I was really impressed by superintendents, and they oversaw school systems. And I just felt there should be a doctorate overseeing early education facilities. So that's one of the reasons I truly want to be a doctor. And then I went on to explain to her how I used to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning and go to the Pawtucket Library and take out all these books and have to go on this little microfiche to find articles. I said, and then bring all these books back home and get them back to the library within 2 weeks, so I was going to pay money. And she's like, "Why don't you just Google it?" I'm like, "Well, that's where I'm a little jealous. That's where I'm a little jealous." However, that goes back to your sentence that you said a little while ago. Now, when I turned around and said to you that day, don't reinvent the wheel. Policies are policies. I share all my policies with everyone. I remember all the hours and time in the 70s, 80s. I did take away time from my family, because that's the way it was. And there were good established policies. And as you know, I've shared them with so many people. They can tweak them, but guess what? In the meantime, take a policy. And when I still give away policies to my colleagues, I'll say, since you didn't have to write this policy, spend time with your family. Spend time with your family. Take that extra walk in the country. Take that, extra moment to maybe just do puzzles with your family, because I think those are important parts too. It was a struggle back in the 70s to run a business. It really was. So I'm so excited for the family save with, as my granddaughter says, Google. It's a great thing.
So for 2022, I know, like right now, mental health is like, at the forefront of everything. Talking about, workforce development and burnout, and just in general, mental health, stigma, all this stuff, which is my, thing. Like childcare is your thing, like early childhood development, and kids and daycare was always my thing too. But I've kind of moved on a little bit into the mental health realm, and let me tell you, I think I got some books to write, because you know me and my family, and some things, and my mom and my brother just passed, and this past week had the dual funeral service for both of them, and unfortunately, my whole family, but definitely them, were like the epitome and milk carton face for mental health. And what people don't realize is it flows over into your physical health, like significantly, which is a lot of their issues, and what caused them to pass at the early ages of 49 and 69. So it's really, really important to me. And now even more so because, I've been through my own stuff and, I have my kids to think about with like anxiety and depression and then, just so many people out there suffering needlessly, and so you being in the position that you're in, I'd love to pick your brain and kind of talking about policies and, where everything's at because 2022, I really want to, now more than ever, in honor and memory of my mom and my brother, really just somehow significantly educate other people and help other people to overcome this because you can, it's something that you need to be aware of, educated around, and build that emotional intelligence, which is what we were talking about earlier. We just kind of didn't name it, right? So I'd love to have further conversations with you going into 2022. I teach mental health first aid, so that's another thing that I want to educate people about that, and the more people know, they can help other people, even if they're not a professional, right? They can just kind of be there to listen, right? Because that's huge and stuff like that. What are your thoughts and your goals for 2022? Like what are you looking to accomplish or continue?
One on a personal, just actually got, I'll say it didn't end today, it started today. Through the pandemic, when you're out of work, I don't think I've taken a day out of work in my entire life, and your childcare closes, and I'm like, oh my God, what's next? And I certainly had lots of anxiety. I mean, money was not coming into the business. We had to lay off 250 people, including myself. I took a layoff. I got to thank my daughter 100 times over because she's certainly kept the business going. She's a bright, bright, bright businesswoman. And so what I try to always do is I don't like to get into the, as I said, I complain and get involved. I always got to come up with the solution. So I started to reduce my own anxiety. I started listening to podcasts and taking free courses on meditation and relaxation and different things, which was really wasn't that in my realm, as you can say, use a lot of energy. And I'm like, okay, you got the time to do this. And I did. So put everything together. And I actually just wrote a book on the name of the book. And it's going to be out in the newspaper, hopefully next week. We just did all the marketing. It's called Come Meditate With Me. And it's a preschool book. That's what my heart is, always in preschool. And it's all about the child's self-esteem. Actually, at the end says, I give myself a big or a little kiss. Once again, always give children choices. Those toddlers need choices. And a big or a little hug. And then I give myself a kiss. And then it goes on to like Wednesday and say, I take an inhale and exhale. And it's all about meditations or repetitive. So that's going to be coming out in probably, today was a breaking day. And I have a training site out there. I share with thousands of people all over the world. I started my training site. The last maybe 6 months, we started charging $5. Up until then, it was free. And we have over 1,000 people on the training site for childcare, and they can email me or talk to me anytime as we're talking about child development now. So I'm going to send out, it's going to be a free book. It's not about the money. It's about getting out the message. I hope to get the message into all the preschools and toddler classrooms to let the teachers teach children on how to meditate. And the book indirectly, listens to this radio show indirectly when the teacher's reading it to the child, or grandma's reading it to their child, or parents are reading it, or nieces, aunts and uncles, is a message in there for the teachers too. So I'm teaching indirectly, I'm teaching them how to meditate as they're going to be teaching children.
Nice.
So that was one of my goals. Hopefully my next goal is to market it and get it out there, but it will start off with hitting over 1,000 people all over the world, thanks to all those training tapes, training videos that we do. And my second for legislation is a woman. I knocked at doors 2 years ago, and this woman answered the door, and most people's like, they take your flyer and I have a good day. I'm like, okay, you don't call me. And I really mean that. Call me anytime. Your convenience makes no difference when you call me. I'm ready to listen, and I love to be there for the public.
And she means that. Most of them don't, but she means that.
I do. You know that. So anyhow, this woman goes, you got a minute to talk? Yeah. She goes, I really, really, really would like to talk to you about, she's a therapist, social worker, lives in Lincoln. I can use her name right now because I'd rather get her permission. She goes, I really want to get a suicide hotline. Can you help me do that? So she has been, honestly, what I have learned from my constituents, it's amazing. It's like no going to the Pawtucket Library, getting all those books out, and no Googling, because human beings have all this information. And all through the summer, her and I have been working very closely together to hopefully put a piece of legislation in the next month on a suicide hotline. So that's one of the goals I have for 2022. And my personal goal would be hopefully I can start traveling. I miss traveling. Believe it or not, my husband and I was stuck in Hong Kong when the
Yes.
COVID broke out, and we didn't know we were going to get home, but we did get home. So that was a little really exciting with our travel. So it'll be 2 years in January. So hopefully, probably by the summer, hope to get at least some travel somewhere, some real nice place to go.
Great. So I think the book we talked about this summer over coffee at your house, right? I think you were talking about that. Yeah. Okay. So good. I didn't know it was done and it was coming out. That's awesome. What is this training site you're talking about?
Okay, it's Dr. Daycare. If you go drdaycare.com, click on training, all child development trainings. Most of them are not done by a movie star. Most of them are done by me. But I wanted my message to get out. I really wanted people to be able to have conversation with toddlers, talk to toddlers, give toddlers and preschool suggestions, and also like how to diaper a child. Some people just don't know in childcare how to diaper a child. And I said, how to talk to the child, say they have 2 eyes. I'm like, you can teach like a 3-month-old math. They have 2 eyes, 1 nose, and lips. And I'm like, so all the time you engage with that child, you talk to that child, and that's the beginning of math skills. Everything's like a lesson to me, and especially if it's math. And I flunk math, just like, no, that's why I really want to make sure the little kids get it at a very young age. And diapering and toddlers and talking and curriculum and all sorts of things. I worked on these about 5-6 years ago, and they honestly talk about being ahead of yourself. I really want to say my staff was amazing, and the trainings came in so that's how the website really blew up, because the trainings really came in at a great time with COVID, because people couldn't get training. So now we have all these trainings.
So Dr. Daycare. DrDaycare.com, go to the training, and this is for anybody. This is for parents. This is for childcare workers, or maybe people who want to get into childcare. It could be, new foster parents or new parents, right? It could be teachers. It could be anybody that can learn something from what you have put out there.
Absolutely. It's really mainly for like childcare settings. However, how to change a diaper, it can be right in a home. It can be a babysitter, a nanny can watch. And nannies do. I get a lot of wonderful comments from nannies. So yeah. So that book, Come In and Take With Me. The story will be out probably the next couple of days. We're asking people to make a New Year's resolution. I have one of your books.
I have to get the whole series of every book you write and have them signed before
Anytime.
Is there anything? Is there anything in closing that you want to mention or say to anybody or direct them anywhere to find you?
No, I'm gonna close on almost like what you opened with. Get yourself a mentor. Get yourself a mentor. I have one myself, and also the other thing I want to say is we're all human beings, and there's parts of us in each aspect or a different part. And so honestly, one of the things that's worked very well in my life is I've gotten therapy throughout my life. To go that deeper part of me that I really could not share with a friend, and really wanted to keep it personal and understanding. So we started talking a little bit earlier about mental health. It's in every family. I can't think of any family it's not. So really, there's a wonderful therapist out there. And for every day, just business and life in general, find a friend, find a mentor. So find someone who's not going to tell you what you want to hear. Yeah. Find someone who you can really have a conversation with.
Yes. So mentors are key, right? Therapists, a lot of people, counselors and stuff like that. And then also I'm a coach, right? And coaches are
thank you for mentioning.
A lot of people think that they are, a therapist or a counselor or something like that. They're not. They're very different, but yet very the same. And so for some people, they prefer that route because of a stigma or because it's just the style that they like better, the way that it works and stuff. So I think you're absolutely right. I used to do everything on my own. I relied on myself for everything because I kind of always had to, until I found people like you and realized that, so when I didn't take your advice right away, it was because I never got advice. I just always figured stuff out for myself. So I was used to doing that.
I get that.
And so to take your
Yeah.
advice, it was like, it kind of took a little bit for me to know that, like, okay, this person's actually trying to help you. They actually mean it. And they're actually like supporting you for no reason whatsoever, just because. And it was really weird. But yes, like I said, forever grateful for you, and glad that you've kept me in your life all this time, and, you know, always reaching out throughout
Forever,
the years,
forever.
vice versa. And I know she means it when she says it. You know, she'd always say, you
I
reach out,
do.
you have a question, you call me, you email me. She's never failed me. I mean, throughout all the years, I don't care when it is. It could be late at night, early in the morning. She's completely busy running her campaign. And I'm like, oh my God, Marianne, I have a question. Let's get on a call. You know, what do you need? Like, just incredible. And when you can find those people in your life, you know, use them because they want to be used, right? And I'm one of
You
those
do.
people.
Yes.
I always,
Yes, you are.
yeah, I always would be there for other people, but I didn't let people be there for me. And I understood it's a two-way thing, whether it's a two-way, you know, relationship, or just you give to other people, but you also need to receive. Well, that was a hard thing for me too, but it's really important. It's really important. So, like she said, find yourself
Sure is.
a mentor, find yourself a good therapist, a coach, or whatever, you know, whoever and whatever is going to advance you, that's going to educate you, and that's going to help you to become the best you that you can possibly be.
Yeah, that's
Right?
absolutely great advice. Absolutely, find someone to listen. Absolutely, and get you to the next step. I think I always think of the word solution. And solution's big. If someone's calling you with a concern, unless this is, I got a little code here. I always say to my staff or my kids or whatever, if you come in and vent, just do this. I'll let you vent. Just do it. Vent means okay. Just talk. I'll keep my mouth shut, which is hard for me to do. But if we want to really be a mentor and do a solution, then we're going to talk that through. So anytime that, if I see V, I'll just let you vent. That's good.
That's funny that you say that, because my oldest son
Right.
used to call me every day after work, and he would complain about his job or his boss or and I wanted to fix everything. And finally, one day after
Yes.
years, he finally yelled at me. He's like, "Can't you just shut up and listen to me?" And I was like, "I didn't know that's what you wanted. I didn't know that's what you needed, you know?" And if he would have just been like, "Okay, I'm just calling you to vent," shh, I would have known, but I had no idea. I thought he just needed me to fix it.
And that's
But
what I love
anyway,
about our kids. They keep us in check. That's your
yes,
son was able
yes.
to say that to you. That is beautiful. That's beautiful. You were
It
able to
took a
listen. It's
while, but
pretty neat.
yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I'd love to have
you
you
got
back
it. You
another
got it.
time. Yeah, it's funny
Yeah.
because I was on her talk show for women in business years ago, and you know, now
Yes.
she's here on mine, and we'll be forever friends now. But like I said, I'd love to have you back. You can talk about your book or something else, and I know there's like a
Yeah.
million things that I can still learn from you, as long as as well as everyone else. So thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your
You're
story.
welcome.
And like I said, I know we'll be in touch soon anyway. But
Absolutely.
take
And
care.
let me end too by saying my sincere condolences. Lost your mom and your brother. God bless.
Thank
God
you.
bless.
I appreciate it.
Thank
So
you for the
if I don't
invite.
see you, don't talk to you, happy holidays, and we'll be talking soon. Take
We
care.
will.